All right, good evening, everyone. Chris Schultz along with Gary Hoff, FridayNightVictors.com. This will be our Week 10 picks, or officially the Week 1 playoffs, yes. MHSAA football playoffs.
Great time of year.
Yeah, we're going to discuss the 7 teams in our area that made the playoffs. Let's hop right into it, Gary. We're going to start off with 7-2 Flat Rock at 7-2 River Rouge. Thoughts on this game?
Yeah, well, initial thoughts, when we were kind of leading up to Selection Sunday, we're trying to forecast who Flat Rock might play. Flat Rock being probably the second best team. Some would say maybe even the best team since they beat Riverview in the Huron League. And, who would they get to play? And they kind of caught an unfortunate break. We kind of thought it would be River Rouge all along. Maybe if they won Week 9, they could avoid Rouge or avoid maybe going to River Rouge. But all those things didn't happen. They ended up going to River Rouge. Tough matchup. I think it's probably one that Coach Riem probably relishes. I think he's that kind of a guy. He's that kind of a coach.
Find a way.
He's find a way. He's not going to back down from this challenge. And the players end up like the coach. They're going to match the coach's enthusiasm. So Flat Rock will compete. There's no doubt in my mind. But this is the toughest matchup of anybody of all of our teams that we cover.
Yeah, I would agree with that. River Rouge has some players who have committed to Division I schools. Corey Parker has been there the better part of a decade. He's built a nice program there. With that said, they're 7-2. They haven't beaten anyone particularly good. Detroit Cody, I think you could throw in there, who's probably a solid team.
They have played some good teams.
They've played some good teams and lost and played them tough.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see. Flat Rock probably has to start out well. I think if the weather's bad, it favors Rouge because I think Flat Rock would like to throw the ball a little bit on them. But we'll see. So your pick here.
Well, of course, we're going to rooting for Flat Rock, but Rouge just has too much D1 talent. Dotson's going to have to have a heck of a game, and they're going to have to control the line of scrimmage as much as possible. Get some turnovers. If they do that, you never know what can happen. A sloppy field might create some turnovers. I like Rouge in this one, but obviously we're pulling for Flat Rock.
Yeah, I think Rouge will win this as well. Other than the players and parents, as an alumni, I want Flat Rock to win big time. But we're thinking with our head here and not our heart, so to speak. So, anyways, I'm going to go with River Rouge. Next game we have 5-4 Milan from the Huron League traveling to 8-1 Chelsea from the SEC White Division. These teams played earlier in the year. That first game was 27-7 Chelsea at Milan. Thoughts on this game, Gary?
Well, two programs that have a rich history together. They've played quite a few times, and it's kind of an even matchup. I think Chelsea has the edge, but not by much.
Yeah, it goes back to their SEC days.
So these guys are familiar with each other. Two schools that are very familiar with each other. Chelsea's a great program. Milan's a great program. As you said, they played in Week 1. A lot of times rematches don't go exactly the same as the first one. They just don't. Although this one probably seems like it was a season ago, being in Week 1.
Right.
So that might not hold true. But again, another tough matchup for the Huron League. Of course, Milan is a 4 seed. Chelsea is an 8 seed. But
a 1 seed.
Or 1 seed, excuse me, a 1 seed. I can imagine, though, Chelsea didn't want to see Milan. That's a tough 4 seed for anybody, really.
It is.
And so I can. It was Coach Bush over that Chelsea.
Yes.
Yeah, I can imagine he's like, oh boy, Milan. We could lose that game if we don't play well. And I agree, they could. Thus, I'm going to go with Milan. I just think there's star power in Milan.
There is, for sure.
Coach Hoskins can get the job done. We know that. And can they maintain their level of intensity, their physicality? Can they maintain that for 4 quarters? Only maybe having 20 kids suit up, 19 last week, as you said.
Right, yeah.
But I do like Milan.
Okay.
It's going to be close. Either way, I think it's going to be close. I don't think it'll be more than a touchdown either way. But I'm going to go Milan, nipping them in the
sure,
in
and
the
I think that's a reasonable pick. There's good players. Actually, there's great players on Milan's team. They just don't have a lot of players. I think depth is going to be the issue because virtually everybody plays both ways for Milan. Chelsea has a little bit more depth. They've got some D1 players on their team. I think this game is close, but I think Chelsea wins it.
If Chelsea kicks it deep to Aschbacher, I'll be completely surprised.
Yeah, I'd kick the ball out of bounds every time.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even attempt to kick it into the end zone. I'd just kick it out of bounds and give them the ball wherever.
Hopefully they're not listening, and I'm sure they know much more than we do. However, Aschbacher is a tremendous talent from Milan.
Okay, next we have from the Huron League, we've got the SMCC Falcons, who are 5-4. They are traveling over to Addison. The Panthers are 7-2. Two teams that run the T offense, snooze fest.
Well, that's beautiful.
But anyways, thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I love the T, but you would probably
Everybody knows that already,
expect me
Gary,
to say that. Okay, so yeah, this game's probably going to be over in about an hour and a half. I think both teams try to let the air out of the game. Certainly SMCC does. I watched some film on Addison. They're
We've
good.
got some big kids up front.
They're
They've
good.
got a little bit of speed.
They got some big kids up front. They got a 3-year starter at quarterback in Underwood. So that has to tell you something. He started as a sophomore, and all the way till his senior year, he's played a lot of football at the varsity level. He can throw the ball when needed. I did see a forecast in the M Live. One of the Jackson writers wrote he predicted Addison to win 36-18 or something around that.
He must know something we don't know.
He must know something we don't know.
The Huron League must not be very good.
Well, he was quoted as saying that SMCC hasn't beaten anybody with a good record other than Palma Westphalia. I guess that's maybe true, but he's not seeing the whole picture there. Huron League's much better than the Cascades Conference.
Yeah.
Addison will put up a fight in Addison. I expect to be packed on a cold night. I'll be there calling the game with Jeff Grodi on 98.3. You can catch it on the radio, 98.3 FM Nash Icon. I like the Falcons. Division 7, I believe they're going to take it one game at a time. I think they're going to advance this week for sure. And I'm going with the Falcons. We'll see. By a couple scores.
I'm going to go with SMCC as well. I don't think Addison sees the competition that SMCC sees on a regular basis. Even an 0-9 Jefferson team was a tough out this year. They weren't a 42-6 game, and they were playing teams tough. So, and you throw in the two non-league games, one being Pewamo Westphalia and then Notre Dame Prep at the end of the season. Even though they lost that game, it was competitive. So I think CC wins this game.
Yep.
So next, let's stay in the Huron League, and we're going to go 5-4. Huron is at 8-1 Gibraltar Carlson. Carlson finished second in the Downriver League to Wyandotte. They lost that tough game in Week 8. Thoughts on this game? Jack Jarmo, former SMCC coach, is doing wonders over there at Carlson.
Yeah, we thought he would. We predicted him to go 6-3 this year. I checked our predictions. We were spot on some.
I thought I said 7-2 on them, but
both 6-3. So
fair enough.
Huron started the season 4-0. Great promise, kind of living up to expectations, at least what I thought. I know you had Milan winning the league. We were both wrong on that account. And then kind of struggled down the end. They started playing the tougher teams in the Huron League.
They can't score.
Yeah. And so they ended up going 5-4, kind of backed into the playoffs, and end up a 4 seed. And of course, anytime you're a 4 seed, you're playing a number 1 seed, and you're going to play a real good team. And that's exactly what happened to Huron. At Carlson, they're a juggernaut. I think they're on par with the Riverview. Huron played Riverview relatively tough.
It's 20-0 game. I thought Huron's defense played well enough. The offense just didn't do anything.
Yeah,
which Riverview had something to do with, of course.
Right.
Here's the thing: Carlson's got a good offense. Huron's got a pretty good defense.
Yeah.
Carlson's defense isn't that great. So, maybe if Huron can find a way to score. I mean, they've just struggled. I mean, even last week against Thurston, they blocked a punt for a touchdown, and then they blocked another punt that gave them 1st and goal at the 5. I mean, you're going to score there. Other than that, they put up 3 points, and I believe that was set up by a long 75-yard run by Brennan Spieth. So the offense just hasn't been there. So
well, Huron should be prepared for the full house tee. They played SMCC, they played Jefferson, and they played Riverview. So those are they should have these practice days down on how they're going to prepare for the tee. So, Carlson may be a little bit better than those teams I just mentioned, maybe. In Riverview's case, maybe not. Hopefully we'll find out. But, I got to go with Carlson. Huron just can't score enough points.
Yeah, I agree.
Simple as that.
And I think it's an easy pick. I don't even think there's any doubt that Carlson will win this game. I mean, I think it, maybe you end up with a 28-13 type of score or something like that, but, who knows? Maybe Carlson gets their 40, and even though their defense isn't the best in the world, I just don't know if Heron can score on them. So, anyway, so I'm going with Carlson as well. Next, let's dive over to Trenton. Trenton is 5-4. They are from the Downriver League, and they are playing the champs of the Huron League, Riverview, who is 8-1. Their only loss was to the Flat Rock Rams in Week 2. You've got Riverview running the T. You've got Trenton that spreads it out a little bit more, kind of like Flat Rock does a little bit. So, Flat Rock gave Riverview fits. With that said, Trenton's is not as good as Flat Rock is, and I think it's going to be a little bit rainy on Friday night. So, thoughts on this game?
Well, we compare Trenton to Flat Rock. I think Flat Rock and Trenton are comparable offensive-wise, but not defensive-wise. I say Flat Rock has a much better defense than Trenton. That's where the difference is, I think, for me. But as a 4 seed, Trenton is formidable. Riverview cannot take this game lightly. They cannot look ahead to next week, whether it's going to be Huron or Carlson.
And it's kind of a rivalry game, even though they don't play in football anymore. They play in everything else.
Yeah.
I mean, these kids know each other. Their cities border each other, and it's a little bit of a rivalry. So
it could be closer.
Both
than maybe
teams
the
will come to
talent.
play.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a natural rivalry, is what it is.
Yeah, so that could mean it might be a little bit closer than the talent would suggest.
Mm-hmm.
However, I'm going to go with Riverview. They're solid in all phases. Full house T. They love to run the ball. They got the line. They got the backs. But the quarterback also, he can make a difference if need be. And I think that's what puts them over the edge here, certainly. I like Riverview. And I don't want to say an easy win, but I think if they play well, it could be real easy.
I think it'll be a close game, 10 points or so, maybe 10 or 11, 12 points, something like that. But I think Riverview wins the game. I think Trenton's probably a year away. A lot of their talent is young talent, although they've got some good seniors. They're probably a year away.
Well,
So
we compare Riverview and Carlson, right? We've been doing that because they run the same kind of offense, and they're both good teams, both the same record. I watched the Carlson-Trenton game, and the score was 40-0 before it even started.
And you left early.
I left at halftime. Yeah. So Trenton has a hard time stopping the T, and so that might be an issue here.
Sure. Okay. All right. So we're both going with Riverview there. Next, we have the Kicking Mules of Bedford, who are 6-3 from the SEC Red, and they are traveling up I-75 to take on Wyandotte Roosevelt, who is 9-0, winners of the Downriver League. They handed Carlson their only loss. They have an excellent defense, an excellent coach. Thoughts on this game?
Well, if you look across the state in any division, pre-district, Week 10, this might be the best matchup in the state. I mean, it's certainly top 10. Mm-hmm. This is a pretty even, and I could flip a coin to pick who's going to win this one. I think if they played 10 times, it would be 5-5, 6-4, maybe.
Sure.
I want to go Bedford, but I think I'm going to go Wyandotte. I mean, I'm on the border here. I think I'm going to take Wyandotte in this. I think their defense is a little bit better. The Bedford quarterback, is he going?
We don't know. He was injured, late in that, or in the second half against Belleville. We don't know if he's playing.
And that's big, obviously.
It's big because he's one of their better players.
The triple option's all about the quarterback.
Yeah, for sure. So you're going with Wyandotte then?
I'm going with Wyandotte, but with a caveat, Bedford could absolutely win this game, and I wouldn't be surprised if you pick Bedford. Bedford could easily win this game. They've had the tougher schedule, and they're good.
Yeah, and I agree with that. Bedford's played a tough schedule. They have a good defense. The Downriver League, I think, is down a little bit just because teams like Allen Park aren't as good as they've been, and Trenton maybe isn't as good as they've been, and Melvindale, aren't where they've been as well. So, I mean, there was, Woodhaven is a good team. Carlson's a good team. So, Wyandotte really had 2 tough games this year. So maybe the defense isn't as good as it looks on paper. I like Bedford's defense. I also like the fact that Wyandotte doesn't see this offense very often, the triple option. So I'm going to go with the Bedford Mules in a close game, maybe even overtime.
You've seen both teams play too.
I have, yeah. So, Alrighty. So, and then our last game, we're going to have Ida who was 6-3, and they are going to be traveling to play Detroit Denby, who I believe is 6-2. I think they have a game missing in there, but that game is at Detroit Mumford, which is a beautiful place for football, between 7 and 8 Mile in the city off of Wyoming. Thoughts on this game?
Yeah, Denby only played 8 games. They didn't have a week 1 opponent, so that's why they're 6-2. Tough matchup. Kind of tough matchup for both teams. You would think Denby hasn't probably seen a full house tee this year
not.
or maybe ever. I don't know. And you just don't see it in the Detroit area too much. So that's going to give them troubles. It's hard to prepare for the tee in 1 week, especially if you might not know what you're doing or haven't seen it before. However, Denby is good.
Sure.
There's a lot of schools in Detroit. You know, King soaks up a lot of the talent. Rouge soaks up. Belleville soaks up. Cass Tech soaks up a lot of talent. So there's not a lot of players to go around maybe for the other schools. So there's a lot of bad schools in Detroit. Well, Denby's not one of them. They're good.
No, I mean, if you look at teams like Detroit Central, Denby, East English Village, Cody, I mean, they're solid football teams. They've got talent. And if you watch their film, you're like, wow, okay.
Yeah. They have some
players. But then with that said, there are some really bad teams, but Denby's not one of them. So
no, I'm going to go with Denby in this one.
Okay.
I've tossed this one around. I think it could go both ways. I think Ida will score because certainly in the first half, I think Ida will score early until maybe Denby kind of figures out the tee a little bit. But I'm going to go with Detroit Denby, by maybe 7 to 10 points.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Denby as well. I think you look at the game that the Blue Streaks had against Brooklyn Columbia Central, to where they scored all those points and a little bit more of a wide open offense.
Yeah.
Denby's going to be something different than they've seen all season. And they're, although not a great team, they're a good team playing in the Detroit Public School League. And they've played against some good competition. So I'm going to go with Detroit Denby as well.
Yeah, I think Ida hangs early, but then loses it in the third or fourth.
Okay, well, I think that's all 7 of our games that we planned on talking about. Real quick, we wanted to do individual video previews that were a little bit more in depth and embed them into our articles that we've already released on the blog for the most part. And we had a little bit of trouble with the sound.
Yeah, we were.
That was my fault.
Well, last night we were at the radio. We were at Nash Icon at the radio station, filming in the radio station instead of my basement. So we were trying to look cool, but
and I screwed it up.
Some technical difficulties.
Anyways, so there's our picks. I don't even know what we did week 9. I guess it doesn't matter. Each of us were.
I think we're about the same.
Yeah, we were about the same. So, anyways, there's your picks, Chris and Gary. We'll see you next week as well. But
good luck to all the teams this week. Stay healthy and
stay dry.
Stay dry and hopefully come away with victories.
All right, FridayNightVictors.com. Thanks, everyone.